All right, so we're diving into the power of positive thinking.
And you chose this one for the deep dive.
Yeah.
I have a feeling you're not just looking for a pep talk.
Right.
It's easy to misunderstand Peale,
Yeah.
to think it's all about like slapping on a happy face and ignoring your problems, but it goes way deeper than that.
Absolutely, you're spot on.
So
Peale was a minister, so his approach blends psychology and spirituality
okay.
in a way that might surprise you.
Okay.
And you have to remember, this book was published in 1952.
Oh, why?
Post-World War II, Cold War anxieties are on the rise.
Yeah.
People were hungry for a sense of hope and agency.
It's so easy to forget the historical context, right? Like, what were people grappling with when these ideas were first published?
Absolutely.
But before we get too far down that road, let's talk about you.
Okay.
What is it that you are hoping to get out of this deep dive? What kind of transformation are you looking for in your own life?
Because Peale is all about action.
He doesn't just want you to read this book. He wants you to put these principles into practice. And that's where the real magic happens.
Absolutely. And to help you do that, we're going to unpack some pretty incredible stories along the way.
Yeah.
We'll meet a salesman who used index cards to conquer his fears, a magazine editor who visualized his way to 100,000 subscribers, and even a doctor who prescribed a cemetery visit to help his patient gain perspective.
Those anecdotes aren't just there for entertainment. They illustrate how these seemingly abstract concepts, faith, visualization, positive affirmations, can have a very real impact on your daily life.
Exactly. Think of this deep dive as your toolkit
Yeah.
for building unshakable self-confidence, overcoming fear and worry, which Peale calls the great modern plague. Can you believe that? Harnessing your creative power, improving your relationships.
And ultimately finding a deep and lasting sense of peace of mind. Something we could all use a little more of, right?
100%. So are you ready to step into Peale's world and see how these principles can be put to work in your life?
Let's do it.
Okay, so let's dig into one of Peale's core concepts.
Faith.
Okay.
Now, before you think this is all about religion,
Right.
it's bigger than that.
It is.
It's about a deep-seated belief
Okay.
in your own potential, in a power greater than yourself. Whether that's a higher being, the universe,
Yeah.
or even just the incredible resilience of the human spirit.
I love how Peale tells that story
Yeah.
about the baseball pitcher who's totally spent after pitching in this like sweltering heat.
Right.
And he's like ready to call it quits.
Yeah.
But then he starts repeating this verse from the Bible.
He does, yeah, and he goes on to say,
But they that wait upon the Lord shall renew their strength.
they shall mount up with wings as eagles, they shall run and not be weary, and they shall walk and not faint.
Wow.
It's Isaiah 40.31.
Okay.
But the point is,
Yeah.
that simple act of like connecting with something larger than himself,
Right.
of tapping into that belief,
Yeah.
gives him the energy to push through.
It makes you wonder, what is that verse for you? That affirmation, that source of inner strength that you can call upon when things get tough.
Right, because everybody has something.
Yeah.
And Peale would argue it's not just about like finding that source of strength, but about actively visualizing the outcome you desire.
Okay.
He calls it prioritizing, picturing, and actualizing.
So it's not enough to just like wish for things to be better.
Right.
But you have to actually picture it
Yes.
in your mind's eye.
Picture it.
Like that story Peale tells about the woman who saved her marriage.
Right.
By picturing her husband back in his chair, happy and content, even though like he was ready to walk out the door.
And she didn't just sit around hoping for a miracle.
Yeah.
She actively visualized the outcome she wanted
Okay.
and then took steps to make it happen.
Wow.
It's a powerful reminder that we're not just passive observers in our own lives.
Yeah.
We have the power to shape our reality through our thoughts and actions.
Which brings us to
Yes.
those sneaky little confidence killers Peale warns us about.
All right.
Little negatives.
Negatives.
Those seemingly harmless phrases that we use that can actually sabotage our success.
I see Aunt Leslie, the what ifs, the it'll never works.
Yes.
They chip away at our self-belief and often become self-fulfilling prophecies.
So this is where things get really practical, right?
They do.
Think about your own life. What are your little negatives?
What are those phrases you catch yourself saying that might be holding you back?
Once you identify those negative thought patterns,
Yeah.
you can start consciously replacing them with positive affirmations.
It's a process for sure, but with practice, you can rewire your thinking and unleash your true potential.
We've talked about faith.
Visualization, positive affirmations.
Right.
But what happens when worry and fear creep in?
Well, Peale calls this, he calls it the Great Modern Plague.
Yeah, and let's be real, we've all been there, right?
Absolutely. He acknowledges that fear and worry are real, they're powerful.
Yeah.
And they can really drag us down.
Yeah.
But he also gives us practical tools to deal with them.
Okay.
Not just mask them, but actually overcome them.
Like his emptying the mind technique.
Now, it sounds almost too simple, but have you ever tried actually visualizing your worries, like flowing away each night?
It's like mental decluttering.
Think of it this way.
Okay.
If your living room was overflowing with stuff, you wouldn't just try to pretend it was tidy.
Right.
You'd actually have to clear out the clutter.
Okay.
This is the mental equivalent.
And sometimes we need a bit of a jolt to shift our perspective.
Right.
Which brings us to one of Peale's more, shall we say, unconventional anecdotes.
Okay.
The doctor who prescribes a cemetery visit to his overworked, stressed out patient.
Interesting.
It seems morbid on the surface, but the underlying message is about gaining perspective.
Yeah, the doctor wants his patient to realize that the world will keep spinning even if he's not always running at 100 miles an hour.
It makes you think about what your own cemetery visit metaphor might be.
What is that thing that can snap you out of a worry spiral and remind you of the bigger picture?
Exactly, because it all ties back to finding a sense of peace, of trusting that there's a rhythm to life that's bigger than our own frantic timelines.
It's like that story of the executive who, in the middle of this high-pressure meeting, simply lies down on a couch to calm himself down.
Wow.
I'm not sure I'd recommend that as a go-to tactic.
Right.
But you got to admire the commitment to finding your center.
It's about recognizing that sometimes the most powerful thing you can do is to hit pause, to quiet the noise and reconnect with that inner stillness.
Okay, but positive thinking isn't just about focusing inward, right?
Right.
Peale talks a lot about the power of love and goodwill, not just for others, but for ourselves too.
He emphasizes that it's not about being self-sacrificing, but about recognizing that true fulfillment comes from connecting with something larger than ourselves.
Yeah.
And sometimes that means extending kindness and compassion, even when it's difficult.
That reminds you of the story about Ralston Young, the red cap at Grand Central Station.
Oh, yeah.
Who made it his mission to spread cheer and encouragement to everyone he met.
Wow.
Just a simple act of kindness, but think of the ripple effect.
And Peale would argue that those ripples don't just impact the people around us, they impact us.
Okay.
When we choose to be a force for good in the world, it changes us for the better.
He also tells that great story about the businessman who learned to see the interestingness in everyone he met.
Yes.
It changed his entire outlook, transformed strangers into friends.
Right.
Imagine going through life with that level of curiosity and openness.
It's about recognizing the inherent worth and value in every human being. And when we approach our interactions with that kind of respect and empathy, it can lead to truly profound connections.
So as we wrap up this deep dive into the power of positive thinking, what's the key takeaway for you?
Well,
we've covered a lot of ground from facing your fears to finding your inner strength to embracing the power of love and service.
Right. Peale's core message is that you have within you the power to overcome any obstacle, to achieve anything you set your mind to if you tap into that power greater than yourself.
Okay.
And that doesn't mean ignoring the negative, but facing it head on with a mindset of faith and determination.
It's about taking that first step.
It is.
And then the next, fueled by the belief that you can achieve what you set out to do.
Yes.
So I'll leave you with this. What is one small step you can take today, right now?
To start putting these principles into action in your own life. Thanks for joining us on this deep dive. And remember, if you believe with all your heart, anything is possible.